Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of the HaskinCast podcast. I'm Scott Haskin. That makes sense. And I have a bit of an update on one of our recent guests, Travis Leroy, who is a very dear friend of mine. Those of you that listen to the podcast learned that our friendship goes back like 30 years. So it was great to talk to him, and he is now engaged, off the market. Forget it, ladies. It's over. You missed out. Unless you're Amy Hickey, in which case you did not miss out. You're the lucky winner. You guys are wonderful people. I'm very, very happy for both of you. It's so cool. You know, over the years, you see people go through different relationships and different bands and different projects, and you see the ups and downs of their lives. And Amy's an awesome girl. I know that Travis will be really happy, so I'm very excited for both of you. Congratulations. This week, however, we have our first returning guest. One Miss Victoria Paege visited and, not physically visited here, but visited the podcast once again to talk about her new movie, Maya, of which she plays the title character. And she's going to talk about that. And then, of course, you know, the thing with her and I is that we always just kind of go off on a tangent on whatever comes to mind. And we could talk for hours. So it was tough limiting it in the podcast. But we had a good time. And I hope that you guys enjoy the conversation. Let's see what else is going on. Not a whole lot. Doing some orchestrations for my friend Brian. For a couple of songs that he's writing. And it's always fun to work with different people on different projects. I don't really do a lot of orchestrations for other people. So it's actually a pretty different process than what I'm used to. But he's such a great guy to work with that it's just a joy. You know, it's a joy to do. And it's always nice to have a challenge. I think it's really easy as an artist to get in a rut and just stay in doing things that you're comfortable because you can turn out work that you're happy with, or that will at least be, I guess, what you would deem worthy of putting out there, because you know that you've stayed within those confines that have made you comfortable of putting it out there in that condition. So it's really nice to actually do something that's completely different and work with somebody else, and of course a really good friend. So it's nice to, create together. So that's a lot of fun. And I've got, I'm finishing up actually this coming year's Christmas album now. I wanted to do all three of them last year, but I couldn't because of time. And this year I have the album mostly completed, but I'm going back and going, okay, so now that I've got all the basic stuff done, what do I want to do with it? Is this right? Does it need to be changed? And so I'm pretty close to getting to the mixing stage. Then I'm doing... as time allows, either one of two projects. I really want to do like a 90s computer music album. I've always loved that kind of music. I had an Amiga 500, and music production was really big on that. They actually used to come out with a monthly magazine that would feature 2 or 3 different songs on the disc. Yes, disc, like actual floppy disk. And I always got really excited more about the music than about the applications or the games or the widgets or whatever they would have on the disc. Like, the music was the thing that would excite me. And this is back quite a ways, like before the internet. So we had, at best, bulletin boards, which were these systems that were done in DOS, where you could get a password and log in, and you could see what people posted. A lot of message boards, played Risk online with some people across the world, which kind of fits when you're playing Risk if you're actually playing with people in different countries. And music. There was tons and tons of music being made and shared on these bulletin boards back in the day, and that were all done on computer. So and they weren't even MP3s. They were mods. The file type was a mod, MOD. And so I had a mod player on my Amiga, and I could interweave it or interlace it. I think it was interlace or interweave, and it would actually change the speed of the song, but you wouldn't lose any of the pitch quality, because they weren't, I guess they weren't really audio files. They were like data files that would play through the player that had the sounds in. I'm not really sure how it worked, but it was very unique, and the style of music was completely different. And I've always loved it, so I want to try my hand at writing it. I think that would be a good challenge and something I've not done before. So that's one project. And then the other project is resurrecting. I want to resurrect an album every year because I pulled a lot of my older albums off the market. I've actually written and completed 25 of them, but I pulled the first 13 or 14 or so off of the market because as I've grown as a musician and as a music producer and as a music engineer, I look back on those and go, okay, these are good, but it's very youthful. I see a lot of my immaturity in that music, like compared to where I am now, harmonies, counterpoint, orchestration, different things. And I really want to go back and re-release the albums, but I want to do them with a better sound quality. A lot of them were all recorded off of my Korg sequencer, which was great at the time. But like when I listen to guitars on it, it's terrible now. Of course, the goal is still to do live drums, but I live in an apartment, so that gets a little bit touchy with time and studio and cost and all that, even though I have some very, very generous friends that have offered for me to record in their place. So I really want to re-release one of those every year until I'm all caught up, and I'm doing them a little bit differently. The songs on each album will be different because back then it was, if I had enough to make an 80-minute CD, I would release it. So it could be pop, it could be rock, it could be new age. Like the albums had no coherency to them whatsoever. So I'm going to fix that and put out albums that make sense now. And so that's the other goal. So the one that I'm looking at doing is my Addicted album that is a hard rock album about somebody who was born addicted to drugs because their parents did drugs. And although I'm not a drug person myself, so I had to use my imagination on it quite a bit. And it was a lot of fun because that's what writing is, right? You're delving into a world that you're creating. So so I'm not sure which one I'm going to start with. I would really like to get the Addicted album done, but at the same point, I'm pretty excited about the computer music album. And then, of course, there is a good chance that there may be another Mental Sonnet album this year, but definitely the third Haunted Holidays album will be out. So I'm looking at anywhere between 2 and 4 albums this year, depending on what other projects come up, like doing orchestrations with Brian or some other projects that I'm in negotiations on. So a lot of it just depends on how much time is available to work on my personal projects, but we'll see. Either way, I'm really excited. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we are here to learn about Maya, Victoria Page's newest film that has just started filming. So they're very, very much in the early stages. So there's a lot that, when you sign on to do a film, there is often a document that you sign that basically says that I'm not allowed to talk about certain things. And you have to go to the director or the producer, get approval on what you can and can't talk about when it comes to doing press. And even though I don't think of myself as press, I guess a podcast would qualify as press. So because they're so early on, there's a lot that she couldn't talk about. They haven't even revealed the entire cast yet. And I don't even know why. I don't know who they might have that they're holding back. But they've got some cool people, and I'm very excited to see it. I love horror. It's my favorite genre of film. So let's find out more, and let's talk to Victoria Paege. All right, let's get Victoria on the line. Victoria, how are you doing today?
Hi, Scott. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. It is so nice to have you back again. Thanks for coming for another visit.
Of course. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we had so much fun the last time. And of course, we always do whenever you and I get together, whether it's over the phone or in person. Of course, we don't get to see each other enough these days, but
I know.
We'll fix that sooner or later.
Yes.
So I understand that you are in a new movie and you guys have just started filming. What can you tell us about your new movie?
So the movie is called Maya, and I play Maya. It's a horror film. It's a straight-up horror movie. So it's a horror movie made by fans for fans.
My favorite.
So, yes, yay! I know. I love horror. It's my favorite. My favorite to act in. I grew up watching it. This script is. I love it. I was really drawn to it. Paul's intention, not the director and the writer, his intention was to make a smart horror film with depth and sophistication, but also maintain the elements of horror, the horror that audiences love. And when I read the script, I have to tell you, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Good. Do you feel like a lot of horror movies these days are kind of like, here's the points that we need to hit. We need to hit the jump scare. We need to, hit this part of the story. We need to have people naked. We need to murder people, and we need to make it as gross as possible. And that's the new formula. So there's not as much intelligence as there is like a formulated, this is how we do horror these days.
I would say kind of yes and no. There's definitely a formula that you see a lot of horror movies stick to. Still new things that are coming out all of the time, but then you've got stuff that like James Wan does, like The Conjuring and Insidious, and it's not blood and guts and gore and boobs. Which is really good because everybody can get into it. If you don't like to see straight up slasher movies, there's another avenue for you. However, those are few and far between. So this is an indie movie, and with it being the more independent, yes, you definitely see that formula. Cabin in the woods.
Right.
Girls get naked, boobs and blood. Not that that's bad.
Right.
But I was so happy when I saw how intelligent this was.
But that's kind of like, we've seen those movies for years. If you go back to the original Halloween, the original Friday the 13th, I mean, that's all they were. And seeing what they've done since then, like looking at movies like Saw, that was a far more intellectual journey, but it also had an extreme amount of the visual gore, if that's what you wanted. I feel like that was heading into a much more wider variety of horror. And I think James Wan did the first one, didn't he?
Saw, he sure did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's actually paving quite an interesting way for us to potentially go in. And you mentioned The Conjuring, so I have to take a little segue here.
Okay.
Or side journey, I should say. I can't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast, but I was in LA a few years ago. It was like the year before I moved there, and I did the Warner Brothers tour. And there's the part where they take you to like the sort of museum where they have the weapons and outfits and different props from the movies, and then upstairs they have like a whole floor of just Harry Potter stuff.
Oh, cool!
But on the first floor, where they had like, well, this was in Gone with the Wind or whatever the different movies were, and like, this is a dress that so-and-so wore. I'm like, yeah, it just didn't really interest me. And then I come around this one corner, and there's this glass case with the Annabelle doll in it from The Conjuring. And at this point, the only one that had come out was The Conjuring. Annabelle hadn't come out yet.
Ooh.
I'm telling you, in broad daylight, in a room full of people, that is the creepiest thing I've ever seen, that doll. He did such an amazing job on that. I was, to this day, I mean, this is like 5 or 6 years ago, probably. And I'm still like, wow, that was creepy. Yeah.
I have a mini one that he gave me, and I have to tell you that it falls out of its box all the time. I don't know how. Yeah. So I don't know. She's creepy, but I love it. And
how big is it?
The one that I have?
Yeah.
It was one of the promo items that they were doing for the movie, but it's probably a good 13 inches tall. Yeah.
That's significant.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
The one that I saw, it was definitely the size of a small child. I mean, and I think that made it creepier.
Yeah, it's not the size of the one that was in the movie. But the actual doll was Raggedy Ann, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh. I've seen the pictures of it from Ed and Lorraine Warren's basement. And then they did, I think it was Ghost Adventures did a thing where they actually tried to tempt the Annabelle doll, the real one, the Raggedy Ann one.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to mess with that.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't.
No. The Warrens had a book that came out. The Warrens, is that the family? Or was that the...
They were the investigators.
Oh, the investigators. What's the name of the family? I don't remember.
I will have to look that up.
The family. Well, the family, talking to them, because I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to them, things happened all over their property. I mean, horrific things. And I don't know if it was just confined to their doll or if it was, I don't know, but it was definitely scary. Not something you'd want to play around with. I would not, even for TV as a ghost hunter, I would not want to mess with that entity at all.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a ghost hunt?
Not I've done my own because I love that kind of stuff. But more like in Ohio, Pennsylvania, places like that. Here's this bridge that is supposed to have been haunted forever, or there's asylums that are closed down that you're not allowed to go into and things like that. But I have never taped anything or tried to find sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. I think it would be a really interesting thing to do that, but I don't know how I would deal with walking around in the dark all night. I think that would be the harder thing for me more than anything else, because I think your mind will play tricks on you a lot if you're in a situation like that.
Oh, definitely.
You go into a creepy attic or a creepy basement, you're going to think any little sound has got to be a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't want to go too far away from Maya though. So
right.
Maya's not a ghost story though. It's just a horror film.
It is a horror film, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the premise of the story?
So there's a group of friends that meet up, and they're going to go on a hike. And we get to really learn about each of them, their background. Like I said, there's a lot of characterization in this movie, which is really good. So it's not just straight up, here's a character dead, here's a character dead. You really get to know what's going on, and it's very psychological. So while they're exploring the woods, a lot of really odd things start to happen, and unexplained. So it really starts to mess with them all, mess with their minds. And Maya, I show up to them in different ways. So I'm a shapeshifter, and you don't really know what my intent is or why I'm there in between everything else that's going on. So it really becomes a big mystery while you're in suspense to try to figure out why are these things happening to these individuals.
Okay. Interesting. What was your feeling when you first read that you were playing a shapeshifter?
I didn't realize the depth of the role at first, because of the way that I show up, and then after speaking with Paul Nemes about it, I really learned, I guess, everything that went into it. I think it's very interesting and very amazing, and I'm really happy that I get to play a character like this, because it's going to be something different for everyone to see.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. But I think when you read a script for the first time, and I've read a lot of scripts over the years, probably not even close to as many as you have, but a lot of times I'll read things and I'm like, how are they going to make this happen? Was there anything that looked like, from a production standpoint, where you're like, I don't know about this? So here's the cool thing.
He is doing a lot of effects and a lot of things specifically where you're not going to know how they're done.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. The really cool thing is that not only are you going to be wondering what's going on in the movie, but you're going to say, how did they do that? Like, what? This is an indie movie, and they pulled this off. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. So what's going to be fun is that after the movie is released, there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes things. So you're really going to be able to learn about what went into it.
I like that. Because that'll help younger filmmakers too, when they see that things are possible that maybe they wouldn't have considered before, and then they'll take that and go, okay, but what can we do with that?
Definitely.
And then bring that up. You mentioned, bringing people on just to kill them off in movies, and that's definitely something that I've always had an issue with. So I'm glad that this isn't another one of those kind of horror movies where it's just, there was that guy we saw in the beginning when everybody was happy, and we haven't seen him for an hour, but he's on screen, so he's probably going to be the next one to die. I mean, it almost becomes predictable.
Right. Exactly.
And I remember watching, I used to love David Kelly shows. Like, I loved The Practice, and I loved Boston Public. Not Boston Legal, but Boston Public, which was based on a school instead of a law firm. And he would do that. He would bring on a new person for a show that you had never seen before, or maybe they were in the background the previous couple shows, just so that they would be the one that was going through whatever the issue was on the show. But you wouldn't care because you didn't care about that character yet. Like, there was no build-up. So I really like that it's more character-driven than it is anything else. That's good.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, again, why I loved it. And again, I love horror. Horror is so fun for me because I really like physical acting. a lot. It's my favorite kind. You know, you're really running, you're really jumping, you're really falling.
Yeah.
And every horror movie, whether it is a slasher or not, is fun. But when I read this and I saw, everyone gets depth. Yeah, I was just so pleased. So pleased. I'm like, yes, count me in.
Yeah,
I want
definitely
everything
happy.
to do with this.
That definitely excites me. But being that it's physical and you don't have to tell us what the situation is, but is there anything that you're looking at the script? Because you're just starting to shoot now. So is there anything that you're looking at the script and going, I'm kind of nervous about shooting a particular scene? Or do you feel that the way that it's written, you're not really you're not putting yourself at any real risk?
I don't think that I'm going to be at risk. The other characters are definitely going to have to do some physically demanding things. It's going to be really fun, but there's not, on my part, I'm not gonna. I don't think that I'll be in danger of getting hurt. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. There are so many different scenes in different locations for this, so you never know.
Yeah. I hope that you'll be safe. But
Thank you.
It's interesting because in horror movies, especially, I think that is one of the most dangerous to shoot because there is a lot more. Like they choreograph some of it, but I know a lot of times it's just okay. Just run from here to there, and we'll shoot it, and we'll see what it looks like, as opposed to like an action movie where a lot of the things are choreographed very specifically.
Well, I've been in horror before, and it is choreographed. We'll have a stunt trainer on set to help teach you, but there's always still that danger.
Yeah,
because we're not training for ever.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, you have a limited time, and obviously, being an indie film, you have a little more limited budget for those kind of things too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not months of training; it's a couple of days of training instead. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's definitely still that risk there.
Right.
I'm not sure what training would go with this. There's a lot of prep that we're putting into this. We went to LA last week and worked with Joe Castro, who is just a fantastic special effects artist. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be doing some things that we can't mention yet, but you will see soon.
Excellent.
And yeah, really good locations all over LA, Colorado, Arizona.
Wow. So you're shooting in all the states I've lived in, basically.
We did that on purpose.
I figured, yeah. So when you shoot in Michigan, let me know.
Okay.
I don't know if they have a tax incentive anymore, though. I think that might be gone.
Oh, no.
They had a really big one for a while, and I think it might have cost them a little too much. And then they either severely dialed it down or don't have one anymore. I don't know what the current state of it is, but had some friends that shot a film out there, and they were very generous at the time.
Wow. Yeah. No, I haven't heard anything about Michigan. Mm-hmm. Although they're doing a lot of things in Louisiana and Atlanta. Some in Ohio now, Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Really?
So it's moving out there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just glad to see more states coming on board, and because there's, not everyone can travel. Not everybody has the means to pick up and move to another state, because it's not just about the acting job. It's you have to have a lot of other things to live somewhere, and unless the production is housing you or putting you somewhere. But for most people, especially in the indie world, they don't have those opportunities. So it's good to see productions going to those states. I've watched the decline in Arizona since the tax incentive that they had gone away, and the continual fight for that. And then now, then I moved to LA and then moved to Vegas, and we have, a good tax incentive here, and we did in California. So it's nice to be in places where production is happening around me. I just feel like it changes the energy of the city.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. It's a good energy. It's a good energy to be around.
Yeah. Not to say that people in Arizona aren't still making films, because they are, but they're much more on the independent production side than anything of like a larger scale coming through town.
From what I understand, there's a new studio here. I know there's a big corporate type studio for bigger films, but yeah, I heard something about there being some kind of a new studio in Arizona.
Oh.
Which, being in California for the past 3-4 years, I didn't know anything about. So
Sure.
I was happy to hear that, because films out here films in Arizona really need to get a chance to not only have to work with the same the same people at the same locations because that's what they know they can get. They can branch out and work somewhere different or make their sets look different just because it's at a bigger type of studio. That's fantastic. It can really bring a lot of change.
Absolutely. And you hit on something that's really key, especially in the indie world, is that people tend to just work with the people that they know or with their friends, and they don't really branch out. And I think that working with different people really helps you build your skills because you see things a little bit differently, or you're forced to do things you wouldn't normally do because of the difference in the people you work with.
Right.
Have you worked with Paul as a director before?
Not as a director. Actually, I worked with him in A Man Called Nereus back in 2009, I believe it was.
He was in that?
Yeah, he sure was. He sure was. That's how I first met him and worked with him. And actually, another one of our cast members, J.C. Marquez, was in that as well. And that's how he's connected to being in this film. And that's how Paul remembered me and approached me for this film. He said that while he was writing it, he just kept thinking he's never written a character as someone before. But while he was writing this, he said, I just kept popping into his head, so I had to audition.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that I got the role.
Well, and once you see a character that you're writing as somebody that you know in real life, it's like you can't unsee that, and you'll start tailoring that character to what you know that person can do.
Well, I'm really honored and happy to have been that person.
Well, it's a huge compliment, and obviously you made an impression on him when you were filming together. And I'm going to have to go back and watch that now because I honestly don't remember seeing him in it, unless I just didn't realize it was him. Probably
not. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. But I worked with Paul 10 or 12 years ago on a film. I did some additional music on a film called The Domain, which was about a guy who was, if I remember right, he had it wasn't a porn ring. It was like some kind of digital erotic ring thing he was doing that was illegal. It's been so long since I've seen it, I don't really remember. But it was very dark. It was a very dark and very edgy film at the time.
Yeah.
And he had a composer, but he needed some additional club music written, which I had never done. And I'd also never worked on a film, but I was looking to get into it. And we connected, and he said, well, I need some club music. And I'm like, I'll give it to you in an hour. And then I got off the phone and went, what the hell did I just do?
Good job.
Yeah,
in an hour.
Yeah, I really wanted the job so bad.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know anything about club music. How
name that tune. You're like, I can do it in half an hour.
Right, yeah.
You didn't need to do that.
So I get on Amazon and I listen to a bunch of clips and I'm like, okay, I got it. And I sent it to him in 58 minutes. And got the job based on that. And then I wrote a couple other pieces for the movie after that. But thank you. But yeah, so that's how I met Paul. And it was a great project to work on, and I'm really proud of that. And that was actually the first film that I worked on. So we go way back. So I'm excited that you're working with him.
That's great. Yeah, me too. And I like to hear that. I really like to hear that he's worked with other people that I know and things to that extent. He's done a lot, which is fantastic. And David Hayes, he worked with Nereus and I think Scream Machine, because Scream Machine was a pretty big one that he did, underground horror that got a lot of traction. So he does really good things with the people that he works with, and continues to want to work with the same people because getting that core group really is important. That way we all are very comfortable where we're working with each other, and it's just a fun experience for all. Even if on screen it's going to be very suspenseful and horror.
Right. Yeah.
When the cameras are off, it's very important to have a really good, strong core group.
It is, especially if the things that you're filming together are going to be intense.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Ashley C. Williams, who was in the Human Centipede, the first one, and she said that the three of them just got along so well.
Oh, and that's great.
When you're spending that much time in an uncomfortable position, just forced together like that. I mean, it's so important to get along with the cast. But it must be nice for you to walk into a situation where you have at least some people that you're familiar with, and then some new people that you're going to work with as well.
Exactly. It is. It's exhilarating. There are a lot of very intense, very close scenes. So it's going to be it's going to be fun and an experience to experience that with other actors, especially. So he made this. It's very culturally diverse as well. So he has actors coming in from everywhere that aren't even announced yet. But he's got Brinke Stevens, who huge horror icon, and then Ola Ray is going to be in it as well. She played Michael Jackson's girlfriend in Thriller. She's a model, a singer, an actor. She just does everything.
Right.
We've got JC Marquez and me, and there's a lot. So you can go through the cast list and take a look at who it is, and then you can see who we've worked with. It would take a little bit of work, but you can see when we've worked with each other and the ones that we haven't. So it's like a family, and then we're bringing some other people in as well.
And the thing is too, with somebody like Paul, obviously he's concerned about the camaraderie. So I would imagine that part of him picking some of these people that you guys haven't worked with is based on their reputation.
Definitely.
The fact that they haven't been known to have a lot of drama. They're not in the media for negative publicity kind of things.
Exactly. He was saying that Ola Ray, every single person he speaks to just speaks the world of her. So I'm really excited to work with her and meet her.
Kind of like you.
Brinke Stevens.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so. I hope I have that reputation.
You do. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I can't say I've ever once heard anybody say anything bad about you. Nothing scandalous, nothing like, oh, she was having a difficult day or, whatever.
Oh, no.
Like never anything. I can't think of a single thing I've ever heard anybody say about you that I would have wanted to punch him in the face for.
Good. Well, that's good. Yeah, I try to keep that completely away. It's not the place. Obviously people get tired and they can get cranky, and if you're in a certain scene and you have to act a certain way, you got to get into that headspace. But yeah, overall, it's just everybody works really well together because everybody wants to have a really good time at the end of the day. Nobody wants to go home and be, ugh, this was a bad set and I didn't like working with this person. Nobody wants that. So
right.
The people that you see get more and more work, it's usually because they know how to behave. And they work really well with others. Yeah,
I think the attitude of the people that you work with is a big thing because you're and you see a lot of these videos about why Hollywood won't cast this person or that person anymore on YouTube. And whether that's true or not, there would be a validity for it because what those videos are typically about is this person treats their assistant badly on set in front of other people, which makes everybody uncomfortable, and no one wants to be around that. How are you going to go do a love scene with an actor after he's just berated his assistant because his cheese wasn't cut into cubes?
Yeah, well, that would be horrible.
Right. So, you don't want that kind of stuff on set. But then the bigger, or I shouldn't say the bigger because that's not the right word, but the more well-known you become as an actor, those things become even more important. And I just saw a headline this morning, and I just took a brief glance at the article where apparently Melissa Joan Hart now is under fire because she took her kid from a private school and put them in a public school and said something about, and I don't want to, misquote her, but it was something related to the way that people are that are believe in God and the way that people are or potentially could be that don't believe in God. And I don't know what she actually told her son or how her son maybe converted it and said it to someone else. But now that's become a big thing, and it's like that's it's got nothing to do with her ability to act in a movie. Right.
Right. And how old is her son?
I'm not sure. I don't think her kids are that old though. I mean they're not even junior high age, I don't think.
Especially when you're teaching children. I mean, so many things can be taken in and out of context, and that just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything bad about her.
I haven't either, and I don't necessarily think that this was either, but the way that the media takes one thing and then they'll spin it into whatever they want. It's like it's almost terrifying to say anything because of what might come back.
Yeah, it can be. It can be because they can twist things. Just dependent upon where it is, and I guess what the story should be that week, and what you're doing, and what it has to do with if you're doing it in a movie or something. And I don't know. Yeah, I can't really tell you how it works with that.
Yeah.
try to behave yourself all the time.
Well, and I think that much like you, she's probably just naturally a good person. I've listened to a lot of interviews with her. I've never heard her say anything that I was like, what did she just say?
Yeah.
But I've listened to a lot of the podcasts and things that she's done. And she's actually very intelligent, not just as an actor, but as, as understanding the business and as a business person herself, and the things that she did with her mom and the company creating Sabrina. But yeah, do you ever get nervous, like doing podcasts with me about things that, like, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. I think it's just a personal thing. Like if I, when I have a conversation with anybody, I'll go back and I'm like, what did I say? Did I say something that I didn't realize you know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't realize I said, or did I position it in a way that I didn't mean it like that at all, but it could be taken wrong. I think that's just general anxiety though. I don't dwell over it or anything, but yeah, you want to, I guess, have a general idea of what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that helps. And, I guess for me, because I don't do a lot of things in the media, but I was recently interviewed for another podcast, and I found myself doing the same thing. I was like, as soon as I said something, my mind immediately went to, how are people going to take that? Are they going to take it? And I'm already answering another question, still thinking about the last question.
Yeah.
So
I think that's natural.
Is it? Or is it just being ridiculous? I felt like I was being ridiculous.
It depends, maybe, on what it is. If somebody asks you what you had for breakfast and then you don't like your answer and you're thinking about how you answered it, then maybe it's a little ridiculous, Scott. So.
Right. Why did I say eggs? There's those people that hate dairy and I'm going to lose them as fans.
You can say fried eggs. It's okay.
Right. Yeah. Because, you've done a lot of interviews over the year, but you've also been an interviewer. We've interviewed people, and you've done quite a bit of that. Do you miss doing that?
Well, that's how I started, and that's where everything started. And that was so much fun. I do sometimes miss doing that. It's really fun to be on the other end of it, to have somebody that actually wants to come and interview you about something. Mm-hmm. But I really did love doing the interviews because I got to meet and work with so many incredible people.
Yeah.
And that, that's when people are coming up to interview you, they're from the media, from the media. So you don't have Phil Lamar, John Schneider, Richard Epcar. Like you don't have them coming up to you,
right,
wanting to ask you a slew of questions. So you don't get to sit with them as much as if you're interviewing them.
Do you think, though, that there's like a hierarchy for an actor, that once you've become a known actor, whether it be film or television, that if you went back to doing interviews, that people would take that as like your career's failing? Or do they think that, oh, cool, look, she's interviewing people now. Look at what she's doing between films.
I think that you can get pigeonholed into things. I don't think ever that it would show that an actor is failing. I would never think like that, but you can get stuck doing that. And that's kind of why I shied away from it a bit. Is I was working a lot with comic conventions and doing interviews at those with their guests that came in, but then they started bringing me in as a guest. So it was a little different, because then I had films that were coming out, and I was collaborating with different artists and was in books. So for me to go and break away and just still only do interviews, I didn't want to only do interviews. I wanted to act. And doing the interviews was something that really, to me, it was fantastic, because I had never worked with these people or in this world. Mm-hmm. But once I did that for about 2 or 3 years, I realized, okay, this is great. I've been able to show other people what these icons, these wonderful people have done to get where they need to be. Now I feel like it's time to start going more towards my goals of film.
Yeah, I can see that. But it was a great experience. You got to talk to some pretty incredible people.
Oh my God, it was fantastic.
I think we talked about this last time, but like just sitting there for 5 minutes with Phil Lamar was a pretty awesome experience, even for me, just being there doing the photography of it and all. But just like the interaction with him was phenomenal. He's
wonderful, yes. And we, to this day, we've got a professional relationship because of that. And that's what was so fantastic about it, is that when I met and sat down with the people that I have over the years, and there's so many I can't even think about them now, voice actors, actors, comic book artists, writers, I got to know them through that. So it wasn't just hey, we're doing this interview really quick, okay, bye, see you later. We built a relationship off of that, and then started working together, and now we collaborate in other ways.
Right.
And that to me is one of the most wonderful things that can come of it. And I don't know if most people who do interviews are journalists or if that's their main goal. But when I started doing the interviews, it was because a friend of mine had opened up a Comic-Con, and I said, hey, listen, let me help you with your show. Like, right. I'm an actress, I'm a model, I'll do promotions, whatever you need. And then, I met so many wonderful people through that, and then they just put me in their projects or asked if I would be a part of it. And I don't even know. I mean, that wasn't my goal.
Right.
That wasn't something that I was trying to do. I wanted to highlight them.
But a lot of things happen organically if you put yourself out there, and especially if you're doing something that's of pure heart generosity, you want to help your friends out, so you just go do something. A lot of times things develop organically from there. So you went from that to just a short time later going to Comic-Con in California, which is the biggest one, and having a huge poster of you that was drawn by Justin Chung hanging from the wall.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Like, how do you go from that to that?
Like you said, it was organic. So I interviewed all these artists and these creators, and when I went to do the interviews for Phoenix specifically, I was told interview everybody. And I think there were like 300 guests. So it was impossible for me to interview everybody. So I interviewed a couple weeks before with some of the local bands and local people that I could interview with. But when I went to the show, I really studied and found the people that, to me, it looked like they had the biggest impact in the business, but nobody knew who they were. Ah. So Brian and Christy Miller from Hi-Fi Coloring, they color everything. Pixar, Disney, their stuff on Marvel, their stuff's in Barnes & Noble. You can look on comic books and it'll say Hi-Fi. They're amazing individuals, but nobody knew who they were. And Shannon Denton as well. He's done storyboarding for everything. He's a fantastic artist, and nobody knew who he was, but everybody within the industry did. Right. So I found individuals that I thought should be known, or that automatically had my respect because of how many wonderful things that they had done. So I focused first on that, and from there gained that relationship. They were surprised. I mean, I remember they're like, "Wait, you're interviewing me?" I was like, "Yeah, look at what you've done. Right. Look who, look, you're super important." And I don't know if it was because of me actually having knowledge as to who they were that it built a relationship, but we all, we became friends. And through that, then, even with Justin Chung, they're like, "Hey, you know what? I was working on this project, and I thought, hey, Victoria would be really great to be a part of this." Or like with Justin, that was a word of mouth. He had heard of me from one of the other people. Said, "Hey, come meet me at Comic-Con," which I met him at Comic-Con the year before the banner. And he said, "I have this project that I'm working on, this pinup project. If you want to work on it, we could do something." And we all collaborated. And then the next year, he loved it so much. Brian and Christy Miller from Hi-Fi also collaborated on that piece as well. And I guess for them, or for Justin at least, it was a good enough piece that he said, I have to submit this. We did Topps cards. Mm-hmm. So I got to be in a trading card pack, which was really cool. Yeah, how awesome is that? Yeah. And for those who don't know Justin's work, Justin does a lot of the Star Wars trading cards. He's got a very unique style, and once you see what his style is, if you see a card, you'll know it's his. Yeah. But I mean, for a guy who does that kind of work for one of the top movie franchises in history, to be drawing you on trading cards, I mean, that's got to feel pretty amazing. It was unbelievable. It was just incredible. I feel so fortunate to get to work beside and with these just insanely talented individuals. I really, it's been 2010, so it's coming up on 9 years now that I've been working with everyone, and it's been an incredible experience. It's really helped me grow a lot. Where, again, I thought I was helping a friend promote his convention,
right?
And then from there, getting to meet the guests was tremendous.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, though, is that you weren't doing it trying to gain something, except
never.
Just, obviously you gain some sort of self-satisfaction when you help someone else, but it wasn't like you were saying, "Oh, this will boost my career, so I should do this."
Yeah, not at all. No, not at all. I was doing a lot of independent films in Arizona. I didn't think that they were even related at all whatsoever.
Right.
I thought, I'll do this. And back about 10 years ago, cosplay was not a thing. I mean, there were maybe one or two other girls in the area that did it. It was kind of frowned upon and laughed at.
Right.
So I didn't have any idea the impact it was going to have. And also, I didn't have any idea that the people that I was going to work with and eventually become close with, they have all just, their careers are fantastic, and they've blossomed, and they've worked so hard, and the things that they're working on now, the shows that they're producing now, and the project that they are connected with it's fantastic, and it's been really cool to watch everyone grow.
Yeah.
And excel over this time too.
I love that too, because when you like somebody's talent and then you find out that you like them as a person, seeing them blossom, it just means that much more.
Yeah.
But I like that you were also really focusing on people that you knew had an impact but weren't necessarily known for it, because productions are not just the actors, they're not just the writers, it's a combination of so many people. And when I think about the credits to the end of a Harry Potter movie being almost 20 minutes, there's a reason for that. Because that's how many people worked on it and how many people deserve that recognition. And even though your name might be one tiny line on, 300 pages that we just looked at,
right,
you still deserve that credit. And I like that they actually take the time to do that. Whereas before it might just be visual effects brought to you by ILM, and the people aren't getting the credit for it that actually do the work. And now even Star Wars is doing 11 pages of here's who works at ILM that worked on this movie.
That's fantastic.
I'd rather sit there and watch that and know that many people touch the art than just have the company name.
I always stay through the credits now. Always. After doing this for so long and seeing how many people work on projects and knowing people who do set design or, I do some of the effects for this. I don't know anyone who works on Star Wars. Right, yeah. The artists that are licensed, yes, but not in the credits at the end. Right. But it's so important to recognize those people, because it's not just the actors that you see in front of the film. I mean, think of the effects that go into it, the editing, the audio, I can't even start to go through how many different parts there are, because there's so many different pieces. Well,
the sound design team alone is probably going to be a good 3 pages of names. And that's not costumers, makeup artists, set designers, because those are some pretty elaborate things. I mean, it's a lot of it's green screen now, but there's so much work that goes into it. Yeah. And of course, then you get to enjoy 20 more minutes of the music if you like the music from the movie while you're watching the credits. But I think a lot of people stay also because they're afraid there's going to be some sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy ending that they're not going to see if they leave the theater too early. Yeah.
But I like that they did that, because they're kind of tricking the public who doesn't normally care about the other names to stay and see. That's true. So it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to show you these names and the people who made this possible, and then you can see your little teaser. Right. Which is great, but it's really showing a lot of respect to everyone who worked on the film. Yeah, but it's almost disappointing now if there isn't some kind of thing at the end of the credits that you waited for, like if there's no Howard the Duck teaser or something. Oh my God. I know, because you want that. You expect it almost. Well, you're like, hey, I sat here for 20 minutes and waited and through these credits, and now you gave me nothing. Why is there a blank screen?
Right. Well, I actually prefer to wait because I like to hear the isolated music if I've liked the score or didn't really get a chance to hear the score. Like in a lot of action films or space films, there's so much noise going on that you really don't get to hear the music as much. And being a musician, obviously, that's a point of interest for me. So I like to hear the isolated score at the end, but I also like to stay and see, how many people were in the production. I also don't like to leave with everybody because then I'm just going to be standing in a crowd of people stuck trying to get to the exit.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm always one of the last people to leave it, whether I'm at like a Cirque du Soleil show or a movie theater. I'll stand and let you by. I'll just sit here for a couple minutes and.
Hey, you have to finish your popcorn.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't pay $92 for this so that I could just leave half of it in the theater floor. So, what was it like? Did you know that there was going to be a banner of you at Comic-Con in California, or did you walk in and go, "Oh my God," when you saw it?
Let's see. I remember that he told me he submitted it. Mm-hmm. But I don't think until right before.
Oh.
And then I think there were 3, or if not 3, there were at least 2.
Really?
And he did not tell me that. Yeah. So as it rotates, what they do is they'll highlight certain guests. And Justin has been working with so many people within the industry for so long. Mm-hmm. that he's one of their like highlighted artists.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, I get to put something up or on the banner. And I walked in. He's like, hey, watch for it. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. And then I watched again. I was like, oh my God, there's another one. Like
wow.
it was just I don't even know how to express how that feels. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. It's again, honored is the word that I keep going back to because it's not something that I ever would have. I didn't even know that they had that there, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, I'd only gone the year prior. So the fact that my face was up there was the coolest.
I only knew of one, the picture from the pinup. I didn't realize that there was more than that.
He had the card up there.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he had the card up there. And I think he did it 2 years in a row.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it was a surprise. It was a very happy surprise.
Wow, that is pretty amazing, I have to say.
Yeah.
But
it was very nice of him.
Equally amazing has also recently happened to you, Miss I Got a Huge Spread in a Magazine.
Oh, yay, yes. Yeah, that's some pretty amazing news for me.
It is. Tell us about it.
So I worked with a friend of mine at a studio, and he showed me this photographer, and he's like, hey, listen, this photographer does some really great work. You should get in contact with him. Just see if maybe you guys could work together one day. And I was like, oh, okay. And I looked at his work, and I thought, man, this guy's work is phenomenal. Like, how do I not know him? He works with a lot of cosplay, and I haven't really done a lot of cosplay photography, and it's been a couple of years, I'd say. I do a couple of shoots here and there, but not like I did about 3-4 years ago. So I contacted him thinking 100% that for a cosplay project, and maybe we would collaborate together, or he would hire me, or I would hire him, or however was needed for the situation. And I contacted him. Well, I followed him on Instagram, and he followed me back, which I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And then we started talking. We started talking through there, and he said, hey, listen, I have this project. I'm in need of a model. I would like to get some new images for it because they're working on a glamour section for Shutter magazine. And he wanted to work with these gels and the lighting that he did. And I hadn't ever done a shoot like that before. But when I saw his work, I had so much faith in him. I had to work with him. I had to. So we went and we did the shoot, and we were, let me just tell you, immediately comfortable with each other. He comes from a theater background, so he uses stage direction, which I was super comfortable with.
Right. And
the makeup artist, Laura Edmondson is her name. She came in and just did a wonderful job. And David Bird, it's Reality Reimagined, is the photographer. So we worked together. We went through pictures together, which is fantastic. Normally, you don't always get to do that with a photographer. They'll take the pictures and they can pick their own, especially when it's their own project.
Right. Yeah.
But we worked together on images that we both agreed were good, lighting styles and such. And he told me there were going to be 3 pictures, and the magazine just dropped, and it's a 15-page spread with 7 pictures.
That's huge.
I know. I never expected. So it's my first international publication. It's at Barnes & Noble worldwide, starting January 12th, and you can get it online for free as well. The digital, what's the word I'm looking for?
The downloadable
files.
Yeah.
The downloadable. And so you can see it. You can see it there. But if you want it in print, Barnes and Noble, and I'm definitely I get one, but I'm definitely going to buy extra.
Well, yeah, so. I would hope so. Which magazine is it?
It's called Shutter. So it's for photographers who want some tips on lighting or editing. So I love it because it's a magazine that's to help other artists.
Right.
And the article is about so many people say fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the importance of not doing that. Because if you really want to be successful in business and have a successful business, and it's written by David Bird, the photographer, who's, phenomenal man. And a psychologist that he worked with, and it tells you, hey, listen, when you're building yourself up with falsities, your subconscious knows that. And he goes into what happens and how it's not good for you. It's not good for yourself. It's not good for your business. Just say what you are actually doing, and it'll build from there. And you'll be able to create your brand, create yourself organically without having to make things up to try to seem bigger.
Yeah, there's so many strategies when it comes to how to market yourself or market your product. And, one day you'll read something that says you really need to engage your fans and you need to build a strong fan base so that you can eventually do a Patreon account and get support and this and that. And then the next day or 2 days later, you'll read something that says your fan base isn't even important. Don't focus on that. They're your fans already. They're going to stick by you. Throw them a bone every once in a while. But, everything that you read contradicts every other thing that you read. And it's almost impossible to figure out how to market anything anymore.
Yeah. Well, this is a very good article. Mm-hmm. It's a really good article, and I don't think there's a lot of contradictions in it at all. I think that even if something comes out next week and tells you to fake it till you make it, this article is going to resonate with you. It's going to stick with you for the right reasons.
Well, and it's written by somebody that's got the history to say,
exactly,
here's what I can tell you based on what I've seen or what I've done, as opposed to a lot of these articles that you see that are written by people you've never heard of, right? That, they're more like article writers than they are people that work in the industry who wrote an article. And I think there's a big difference between those two things.
Right. And he has done several shoots for this magazine. So he's definitely doing what he needs to do. And he, in the article even, he talks about it. He had never done that kind of lighting before. And he told me that. So instead of me going in there thinking, oh, this guy knows exactly what he's doing, we're not going to have any problems at all, and then being surprised, I knew, hey, every once in a while, he's going to have to move this. He's going to check. He's going to move this. He's going to check. He's going to put this gel here and this one here. And that was fine with me. Right. I hadn't done that kind of a shoot either. Mm-hmm. So, and his style is different than I'd shot, which is fantastic. I really like being out of my element in that case because you really have to grow and do different things.
And you've shot with a lot of different people, so to find something that's completely different from what you've experienced before must have been pretty interesting.
It was. And it was a studio shoot too. So we had, this one area to use and these props to use to help with everything. And a lot of shoots that I do aren't specifically, they're in a studio, but not like in a warehouse type studio.
Right.
So he was able to do different things that other photographers haven't. They just don't utilize.
Mm. Well, I'm excited. I mean, that kind of a spread, especially in an international magazine, even in a local magazine, would be pretty cool. But to reach something that's international, and it has a huge following, and a lot of people are going to see those pictures, that's pretty awesome. And I'm really excited to see that you were chosen for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I was beyond pleased. The shoot is completely different. I've never done a shoot like that before. I've done print type commercial photography and cosplay, but this is glamour. And it was, because I stay away from the more naked, I guess, type of shoots, or I have in the past, because I want it, when I do things like this shoot in particular, I want it to have a more classy look.
Right.
And not just be specifically 100% about the sexualization of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also to highlight the lighting, to show, hey, this is how you can get this lighting. So it had so many different meanings behind it that I was really excited to be a part of it.
Right. And I mean, I've seen a lot of the stuff that you shot. I haven't seen everything because I think that would be impossible. But I've seen a lot of it. And I have to say that you always shoot. It can be alluring or it can be a little sexy, but it's always classy. There's
Thank
always,
you.
I mean, even the horror stuff that you've done has an element of class to it. I don't think that you could be accused of doing anything that was overtly sexual.
There might be a couple out there. I don't want to say that I don't, I'm not opposed to it. I just, there's a certain image that I'd like to portray.
Yeah. Well, and also it could be because I know you, and maybe because we're such good friends, I just don't see it that way. Like if something was a little more on the sexual side, like I may not look at it that way because I know you as a person and I don't see the picture. I don't really separate the picture of you from the person that I know.
Yeah.
That could be.
Maybe.
In all fairness.
Yeah. I mean, you look through my stuff, you're not going to find a lot of stuff like that. But I feel like when I see Gal Gadot, she's so gorgeous. Mm-hmm. But I see her do things that are, a model shows their body. That's what they do. It's their art and the photographer's art, and how just with a director, if they need you to do certain things in a scene. But when you see someone like her, and you see her pictures, and she's got just a blazer on with nothing underneath, not for a second am I like, oh man, she's just trying to show her boobs,
right.
Or she's trying to get attention because of this. It's I don't even know what to call it, but it's classy, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful, and it's just, okay, this is normal. Like Naomi Campbell, I saw her on a magazine. She was completely topless, but nothing about it was for the sake of, hey, look at my tits.
Right.
It was just, this is a spread, this is beautiful, this is what works. And unfortunately, I see a lot of girls that want, I don't know how to position this. I think they just put themselves in a situation they don't realize that they're putting themselves in, or conveying a look that they don't realize is a certain way.
Right. And you don't have control. Like once you've done the shoot, you've already signed off on it being released. So do you really not have control, like to say, well, I get to have proof, though once we've shot this, I do get to still veto it if I think that these portray me badly. Mm-mm. You're in. Once you're in, you're in.
Yeah. And it depends. Like for me, every time I do a shoot, I own my images as well as a photographer. But that's not the case for most. A lot of times the photographer will own those images, and then you get to pick from there the ones that you like and that he'll edit, but those other images are still his. So it's important to, or hers, there's
right.
Girl and guy photographers. It's really important to know and be comfortable with who you're working with and set guidelines. And like I said, it's different for me because I own them. The photographer owns them, simultaneously, and we can do with what we want to. If somebody is looking to do photos and they want something that's sexy, but they don't want it to cross that line, take the time to write up something. To write something up and say, hey, listen, this is how I'd like it to go, just in case there's something that they're not comfortable with.
Right. Well, being that you're signing off and letting go of it and trusting the photographer, and I know that this is going to be a little more extreme of an example, but are there certain general parameters that protect the model from, say, taking her head and photoshopping it onto a naked body and putting it out and saying, hey, I shot this person? Because with the way that Photoshop is nowadays, you a lot of times cannot tell that that's two different people.
Right.
Is there some general rule of, you're really not allowed to go outside of these parameters, or are there really, it's up to the model to make sure that doesn't happen?
It's up to the model to make sure that doesn't happen.
Wow.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, because once somebody has your images on their hard drive, if you haven't signed anything, they can do what they want with them. Mm-hmm. And if something bad were to happen, I've been very fortunate, and I've never had anything like that happen.
You also research the people that you don't already know before you shoot with them, though. I mean, you don't just go in blind and go, well, you've got a camera, you want to shoot me, so let's shoot something. I mean, you take the time to look into who you're working with. And I think that should be the first rule, right, is know who you're working with. And then the second one would be make sure that you're protecting yourself legally. Exactly.
And that's the thing is, a good friend of mine, Pulp Suicide, online,
Mm-hmm.
she actually just posted a thing today that I was talking to her about. Is if you're going to work with a photographer or a model, reference check.
Yeah.
Find out other people that they both worked with. So if you're looking for a photographer, find 5 or 6 of their models and reach out. Hey, listen, is this person cool to work with? Did you have any issues? Did you know them personally? Look and see the work that they've put out. And then for photographers, talk to other photographers that have worked with that model to make sure nothing bad has come of it, no drama, or, has anything been misconstrued in a certain way, or have they been rude, or were they just amazing to work with? And that's what we're all hoping, is that we hear they've been amazing to work with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting difference between whether it's a female model or a male model. And we talked about this yesterday when we were chatting. And I realized this morning how grateful I am that the movie Aquaman came out. Because as much as I'm enjoying this new genre of female heroes, which I think is long overdue, I kind of like that there's finally a movie where women can be like, I want to go see this movie because this guy's like incredibly hot. Instead of like the tip, because typically I think women don't gravitate towards those kind of movies because they're so marketed to males. It's way over the top.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. And it was, Aquaman was great, and it was for everybody, men and women, really, to come and see and have a good time.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard mostly good things about it. I mean, there's always going to be someone that's like, oh, don't waste your time, that movie's stupid. But really, I mean, it's all anyone's own opinion. How much, as just a fan of movies and looking at it also through the eyes of an actress, how much do you rely on what critics say?
I don't think you should ever rely on what critics say. You can take it with a grain of salt and learn from it, but don't take it to heart too much, because critics are different with, one movie can be horrible and they'll say it's the best and vice versa. So I think it's just up to everybody to see it and go on and you can read forums and Reddit and things like that to see what people are putting online about it, rather than the critics. I mean, critics can kill a movie before it's even out and then give people an idea about how it's going to be, which might not even be true.
Or it might not be true for you. Like,
Right.
because people's tastes are so different, it almost seems to me like, you know my taste well. If you, and I know that you're a big horror fan, so if you recommend a horror to me, I'm probably going to watch it because you and I both are fans of that genre.
Yeah.
But if like you don't know, that I'm not big on comedies, you're probably not going to recommend a comedy to me. Or if you say this is really good, it won't necessarily mean that I like it because that's not something that typically interests me,
A good friend of mine, I get to watch, because we vote on them for SAG, the SAG screeners. And a friend of mine had seen one of the movies and she hated it. Oh, she hated it. She said, I almost walked out of the end of it. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be at all. It is so bad, Victoria. She's like, do not see this movie. And I know that our tastes are very different. So I thought, I'm going to see it. And I loved it. I mean, I've watched it twice now.
Wow.
It's so good. But that's the thing is, it's just opinion.
Yeah.
And you really have to give it a chance. Give things a chance.
I think that's it. I think if the premise of the movie interests me, I'm willing to give it a chance. And I don't really get that much time to watch movies because I'm just doing too many different things. But when I do, I mean, if the premise interests me, then I'm willing to give it a chance. There are certain actors, if they're in it, I'll give the movie a chance, even if the premise is less interesting to me. Because I know that I'll enjoy them in that movie. But yeah, I really, in general, I just can't take people's opinions to heart as much. And I never really understood how the critic business ever really took off in consideration of that. But this is it now. We live in a different age. Like when you think about Siskel and Ebert, that's all there was back then. That and newspapers,
That's what I was going to say. Now you go to YouTube and you can watch the reviews there,
right?
And see what people are thinking in different people. Excuse me. There's a lot of different avenues for that.
Yeah, I mean, other than saying things like the maybe the audio was mixed badly or the production value was super amazing and is worth watching it whether you like the story or not, kind of comments. As far as the story itself, it just seems like it's just too much to personal taste to really be too much influenced by that.
What I try to do personally is when I get a script, if I believe in that script, I'm going to take that role. If I don't believe in that script or think that it's a good role, then I'm not going to be inclined to do it. It'll be up to the actor. If you know that the actor chooses good roles, then you've probably done something good. Now, it's not their fault if the director or the editor made some weird decision in it, because once you edit, I mean, whole entire characters can get edited out of films, and that happens all of the time. And it has nothing to do with the actor or their acting. It just has to do with, okay, you have to make this movie fit within this many minutes to make it work, and then we can mark it out and just get distribution for it.
Sure. Or that storyline didn't really move the overall story forward, so we're going to cut it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I try not to think about what could go wrong. I read the script, and if I believe in it, then I'll do the movie.
Now, you don't have to say the name of the movie if this happened, but I'm curious now, have you had a movie that you've shot going into it with that premise of I believe in this story, and then it was edited to change the story completely, and you kind of wish that you hadn't been a part of it? If you'd have known that was going to be the final story, you wouldn't have taken it?
I don't know if I wouldn't have taken it, but there have been, early in my career, there were a couple of things that I did that I was like, oh. But, I think everybody early in their career just wants to work.
Right.
So they will. But yeah, I think maybe there might be one out there that I didn't expect to come out the way that it did.
Right, yeah.
Again, you can't help that. As an actor, your job is to go in there and do the best job that you possibly can.
Right, exactly. And that leads me to my next question, because you've done a lot of work, and I'd really like to get your opinion on this. When you see a movie and you think that the actor, like let's take the lead actor for whatever movie, you look at that and you go, wow, they were really not good in this movie. How much of that do you look at attributing to the actor's performance versus the director's ability to direct that actor in this film?
Oh, the director can make or break the way that a performance comes through. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen the best actors just in the worst. And I'm like, wow, this is horrible. But if you don't have a good script, you really don't have a lot to work with, and there's not much that you can do. So it's, maybe they were in contract, because some actors with the big studios will have a contract and they have to do so many films with that particular studio. So maybe they did it because their contract was ending, or maybe they did believe in it and then it just turned out, but they'd already signed off on it or something. I'm not really sure how that works, but I've definitely seen that, where I've seen just phenomenal actors and they get the worst lines, and I just feel so bad.
Yeah, I've seen that too, where I look at it and go, how did you not edit out that line? Because it doesn't fit anything. It's a throwaway line that just was like a bad joke. How do you not see that's a bad joke? But people need to understand too that when you're editing a film, you've seen that film 250, 300 times. Oh
my God.
And it's like, when you're proofreading your own paper in school, you're not reading all the words that you wrote. Your mind's skipping over things automatically because it knows what's happening, and you don't catch all those little details or spelling errors and things. I've
done powerful scenes where we had to do many, many takes, and the editor chose my reactions that were basically the test runs, that didn't have the emotion, didn't have the anything in it. And I was, oh my God, so sad. I'm like, what? Because it didn't seem to even match with what was going on. If you're being yelled at by somebody and then your reaction is just to calmly, react back, it's when you know that all the other takes were not like that. It can be disappointing, but that was their vision. That's how they wanted to see it.
Right.
That's what they wanted to do with it. So you just have to trust. You just have to trust in that.
Are they getting a little bit better at that now, though, where they're starting to, like, the directors are saying, okay, write down that this is the shot that I want to use, and then they're giving those notes to the editor after you do 30 takes of something?
A script supervisor is supposed to do that.
Yeah. So, like in those kind of situations previously, did you not have a script supervisor, or were they not maybe on point that day? I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I'm just
no, that's okay. And no, it's because I have done a lot of indie stuff, and at that point, I don't think there even was a script supervisor, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've learned so much in, over the years of doing this, is when you're working with very low budget projects, there are a lot of elements and parts of the puzzle that are missing because there's no money for it, or they couldn't get the person, or they just didn't simply know that it was as necessary as it is.
Well, there are certainly, especially in the indie world, a lot of growing pains. You try and cut all the corners that you can because you really don't have a budget or a very minimal one. But then you learn after that film that, maybe I should look at that for the next film, to budget in the script supervisor, or somebody who has maybe better lighting equipment or things like that. I mean, it's certainly a process, and that comes to what you were saying earlier about having a team, because once you find those people that do perform at the level that excels your film instead of hinders it, you don't want to really experiment with new people after that.
Yeah. Because you've worked so hard and so long to try to find a team that works. Yeah,
right. Definitely. Exactly. So before we go, I want to ask you: is there anything that you're, now that you guys have just begun shooting, is there anything that you've done to prepare for this role? I mean, obviously you can't practice shape-shifting in real life, as far as I know.
Are you sure?
Well, I guess I'll find out at some point.
Yeah, actually, I'm doing a lot of work to make sure that I prepare as much as I need for this. I'm watching a lot of films that have similar type characters to what I am. Working with people that I know that have acted for a while, with a little bit of coaching on that. Taking care of my body really well. I have to go through a little bit of a transformation myself. Change some things, so I'm going to look a little bit different.
Oh.
Yes, so I have definitely been working. and doing my research.
I hope that you're getting some good advice. Like, okay, when you switch from a werewolf back into a girl, your shirt's going to be tattered. You're going to have to buy a lot of shirts.
Yes, I'm getting really good advice like that.
That was always something that, whenever I watch a movie, of course, my mind just tends to wander, and I think about things like that. I'm like, if I was somebody like, who is it, Lupin in Harry Potter, who transformed from a werewolf back into a person, I'm like, how many sets of clothes do I have to have handy for whenever I happen to change into a werewolf?
Have like a fanny pack of clothes.
Right, yeah. And then wonder where I left it as I was running around chasing everything.
Exactly.
But that's cool. I like that you really dig in and you do it. And I'm really excited for this film. Now, I know this is really premature because you've only, like I said, just begun filming. But do you guys have a target date in mind for release at this point?
For release?
Mm-hmm.
No. I know that he wants to be editing within the next couple of months. So it's going to be just like a normal movie where you film for no more than like 3 months, and then you do the editing process, and then usually the end of the year from there. But we're going to be doing a lot of, I think, film festivals and promotion that way. So it'll come out like that first,
right?
And then the distribution will follow.
Well, that's a good point. So for those people like myself who want to see it, keep an eye on the film festivals if you're able to attend any of those. I know that some of them are not as easy to get into as others. And then obviously it'll come out somewhere after that. I would imagine hopefully online, maybe it'll hit like a Netflix or a Hulu kind of thing would be cool.
One of those platforms might be hosting.
That would be nice, yeah.
There's going to be, I think, a lot of avenues where you're going to be able to find this film. I'm very, very happy to be able to say that.
Yeah. Well, I know that you've been on Netflix before because Piranha came out on Netflix, and you were in that, even though I still have yet to pick you out.
Really?
Yeah, well, I just, I don't pay that, like, I don't watch a movie. I have movies on while I'm doing marketing and other things, but I don't, like, just sit there and watch movies, even though I really should, because I would probably enjoy them more. So I know that you have been on Netflix before, so it'll be nice to have you back on again. And in a role that you play the title character.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. Very, very excited. Right now, I think that you can find some of my movies on Vudu. Netflix, if you search my name, iTunes, there's a lot of, Amazon Prime. I've got films on there as well. But yeah, this is, I've done lead type roles before, but this is the first film that I've done where I am the title character. So I'm really looking forward to it. That's
pretty sweet. And then coming off of this killer magazine spread, it's nice to see that things are flowing well in the world of Victoria Paege.
Thank you.
Well, you're going to come back and see us again, right?
Of course.
Excellent. Well, in the meantime, happy filming. I wish you guys the greatest of success. Paul's a good guy. I've worked with him as a director on, like I said, just on the additional music for the film we did, and he was good to work with. So I think you'll have fun working with him on this. And obviously you've got some people that you're already comfortable with, and I think the rest of the people will meld in fine. And it's going to be a great production.
Been fun so far. I can't wait to see what comes next.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Victoria. Come back and see us again, and we can't wait to hear how this all turns out.
Anytime. Thank you so much, Scott.
You bet. Take care. Yeah, gosh, I hope that you guys had as much fun as I did talking to her. She is just so much fun. She's a blast. And every time we get together, it's always a great time. And we just don't get to see each other enough because now we live in different states and schedules. And, we're both pretty busy people. But I'm really grateful she was able to come on the show. And we will definitely have her back on. I'd like to have her on at least a couple times a year, if not more. So stay tuned for next week's podcast. We have another wonderful guest coming on. And if you'd like, go to my website, go to the podcast page, hit the donate button if you want to throw a few bucks my way for doing this. This all comes out of my pocket. Also, if you are on iTunes, make sure to hit that reviews tab and leave a star rating or review. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week.